Hi,
Oh, I think we're live.
everybody. Hey, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everybody. This is Steve with Real Progressives, and I have a treat for you tonight. I've got my good friend, author, activist, personality of the revolution, the truth teller, Claudia Stauber. Claudia, welcome to Real Progressives. How are you?
Thank you, Steve. It's great to be on. It's great to see you. We haven't talked for a little while.
It's
It's
been a
been so,
little bit.
yeah,
So,
it's
what's
been
been
so.
going on?
Well, what's been going on? I'm just going to share this really quick so people have it on my page also. What's been going on? Well, we've all been through hell and back the last year and a half, right? I mean, it's been a trip, it's been really a learning curve for me in many different ways, as I'm sure it was for you,
Oh, my
from
God.
being a normal human being to all of a sudden having a following and really having to sort through what to put out and what not to put out, and we've all gone through a lot of pushback. You, Debbie, I mean, anybody who talks in sort of a public forum, we've been through really the ringer, but I feel we always come out stronger on the other side, you know?
Absolutely. Well, I got to tell you, I have been called a psychopath. I've been called all kinds of stuff. And
Yeah,
I'm so grateful for people like you who stand by me, who actually take the time to talk to me on the phone and talk to me
right,
in text and check in and actually care about where I'm at. And
right,
that means the world to me. And, you know, I think it's worth talking about. I mean, you, Debbie, and myself have all received tons of hate mail,
right.
tons of smear campaigns, people,
Yeah,
dancing around on their walls talking horribly about us. I mean, you
right.
you went out there and you screen capped the stuff and let everybody know, hey, I know what you did, I know who you are, and I know what you're saying. And why
Well,
don't you,
gotten short of death threats. I've gotten pretty much everything, and so it's like it's just unacceptable because we all truly do the best we can, and we all need to be united to fight what we really need to fight, and
absolutely.
if we disagree on tiny little bullet points, we still need to pull together for the big picture.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is that I see a lot of the insults and the cut downs really don't have a whole lot to do with what you're saying. They really have personality issues and stupid
Right,
things that they don't. Oh,
right,
you said, it's like, look, with all due respect, whoever you are, there's room enough in this movement for all of us. If you don't like what I'm
exactly.
saying, or you don't want to work with me, or you like X, Y, and Z, there is room enough. We need everybody, even people we don't like. We need
Right,
every one of us out there
right.
actively fighting. Right? I mean, seriously, what's the big move
I
on? But
completely agree. Yes, I completely agree. And I mean, we have enough people out there that if you don't like my voice, go to the next person, In general, we all convey the same message, which is let's not fight each other, let's fight the establishment, and that's who we really need to go after. And that really should be our focus, and
absolutely.
we do it in different ways. Somebody picks a subject. Debbie has been amazing on election justice. You have been amazing on economy. I mean, everybody picks something and then we run with it. And we try to convey our opinions and our facts the best we can, and it is always a mixture of both. you know
Absolutely. One of the things that I want our audience to know about, and this is my favorite Claudia story, and I'll tell it to anybody that will listen to me. So, Claudia came to us before the DNC and said, "Hey, I've got a press pass, and I'd like to, work with you guys and so forth." And so we got to know each other a little bit, and Claudia did some really, really awesome interviews for us, and she did a bunch of really cool stuff at the DNC. But one of the things that was beautiful was we went to the People's Convention, and Claudia comes up and she's just like on fire. She's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she's like, "Hey, I think so and so's over there." And before I have a chance to even look, she's already wiggled her way over there, and she's talking to Jill Stein, or she's talking to Nina Turner. You know, it was amazing. I sat there up in the second level of that little Quaker church, looking down at you as you're crawling on the floor with your camera, under the table, like get up there with Jill and Nina, and you're like.
I was literally on all fours on the floor crawling around. I never forget it because it was like, oh my God, my knees are going to be all black, you know.
Well, I was sitting there, you know, obviously that was my very first time physically meeting you. Okay. Right. And so, right. You know, I mean, I knew what your show was. I would watch you all the time like everybody else did. And then there we are. I'm watching you and I'm saying, I can't compete with that. Look at her. She's crawling. And the worst, and this is, okay, so here's the funny thing, everybody. My phone, I had this really, really bad phone because, you know, I mean, you don't know what you know until you know it, right? And my phone kept overheating. So I would get about 2 minutes of video and then it would crap out on me. And there's Claudia still filming, just filming and filming. And I'm like, daggone, she's good. So anyway, and then it was like, we go outside to interview Jill Stein. And Claudia gets right up in there and she's like, gets Jill Stein and then she gets Nina Turner. And it was just like, we're always one step behind. She's just that good. You have a nose for this. You really do.
Happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Please. Well, so you had two incredible ones. I mean, obviously the Porsche Bulger interview was epic. I mean, that thing was seen millions of times and has been said. Talk to us about your interaction with Porsche. That was an incredible moment.
Because we were both at in the room where Bernie addressed the delegates, and I actually smuggled myself into that room we were all told, everybody leave the room that isn't a delegate, and I made myself into a door checker so I could stay in. And then Bernie gave his address, and afterwards I walked down the hall inside that room, and Porsche walks towards me, and we're both crying because we were both devastated. And so, make a long story short, we're hugging and we're crying. And then I see her again outside, and she is being interviewed by the regular press. And she's letting loose, and they're like, okay, that's all right. We gotta go. You know, they didn't want to hear her rant. And I go, no, I want you. And I turned on my phone, and it started up with she was saying, I don't give a fuck about Trump, you know, and that just did it. But yeah, and she's really an amazing human being, you know. She really has the heart in the right place. She's a good human. I was sad to see that she went on the Hillary train, you know, towards the end. But everybody makes their own choices to the best of their abilities, you know. And I mean, I didn't agree with that, but I think she's a phenomenal woman, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. So talk to me a little bit about what it is that you are working on now, because well, take it back a step. You wrote a book, and you were kind enough to put some pictures of real progressives in there and mention it. Made me very happy, and you even signed my book for me. You have talk about what to talk about.
I of course have one here, and it's called "What the Fuck Happened."
Oh, here, let me give you full screen. Hold on, I was splitting screen. Here we go.
No problem. And so I just after the DNC convention and after they stole the nomination from Bernie, I was so frustrated, as we all were, and I just needed to give voice to my frustration because I was devastated, and I needed to write something. And I had written 2 other books before that, so it wasn't like I like to write. I've always liked writing and reading. But I wanted to keep people focused on the issues and also write my frustration off my soul. So that book came about that way. And it was really quite successful, you know. And so I was very happy about that. And but then you do the next thing. We're constantly in motion, I feel, because I have never seen so many moving targets in my life like the last year and a half, and continuing to happen. I mean, it's a constant moving target.
Absolutely.
And so I think we really need to stay on our toes and need to be extremely involved in all different ways.
So you, myself, and Debbie, all three have taken a stance of, I don't need to hear about Trump. I'm concerned about the people claiming to be progressives. I'm concerned about this hyper-partisanship coming back in and wrecking what was built, this movement of people who got it, who were together. And now they're trying to unify around a negative message versus the uniting message that brought us all together in the first place. So, this will be the only talk of Trump that I want to even sniff around for this. Talk to me a little bit about your message with where you stand on this.
It's basically, there are a few things going on. One of them is I really, really dislike that at this point, Trump, and I'm certainly not a Trump fan, anybody who has ever listened to me knows that. But I really despise that Trump is already getting blamed for the last 8 years and the next 8 years. I don't like that. And I feel it's the perfect tool to divide us even more. And the establishment is really happy about that they have the perfect tool to divide us even more. And instead of staying with the issues, we have, what did Trump say today? What did he say yesterday? What is he going to say tomorrow? And I just cannot get myself to get into that, because it's like entertainment tonight / politics. I'm not interested in gossip. I'm interested in leaving the planet better than I found it. And I found it a lot better than what it is right now. So that's really the only thing I'm interested in. And I really feel we're missing the boat, and after this whole election cycle, I'm truly disillusioned with politics. I feel we have one party. We cannot vote in the interest of normal people anymore. There is no party for normal people. We have two parties. They're both Republican, and they're both literally the same party. And people who think we have two parties, they have been completely asleep, And so I feel we're really at the point where we need to, we can still attack the beast from the inside somewhat and try to change election justice, the voting system. All that is so broken on so many levels, but it will take so much time. And our planet does not afford us that much time.
No.
So we need to really tangibly do actions, and that's, I feel, where it's at.
So what are you, as you go forward, obviously you live in Vermont and you have a lifestyle that is built on spirituality and organic living and natural living. Talk to me a little bit about your entire ethos there and take us for a journey into the life of Claudia.
That's easy. You have to like composting toilets. Well, I think that what has happened over the last 100 years, really, we have gotten away so incredibly far from the life we could be living. Meaning, when you think about it, Steve, in the old days, everybody was an entrepreneur. Everybody had their own business. Even if you were a farmer, you were your own boss. The idea of being employed wasn't really that much in the forefront. So what we need to do is we need to go back to the point where we are entrepreneurs and our own boss. And in a business where we tangibly will produce something, where we actually make things again. And that is what my whole life really revolves around. I mean, I grow a lot of my own food, not all of it, but a lot of it. I try to have a permaculture environment, meaning an edible landscape from my trees down to the annual plants that I grow. It means that I do something with my hands. I physically like working, so I build log cabins. And I think we need to get back into a place where we physically do things, where we create things, where we make things, where we create community on a small level, where our food doesn't travel 1,000 miles before we eat it, where we actually support farmers in our communities, where we share ideas and where we share time, where we actually hang out with friends and have cookouts and have potlucks and do saunas, and do create community. And I think it's vital for our happiness, not just like a better life on the outside, but for our sole purpose. I think it's incredibly important to have people in our lives that are earth people, that have their hands in the soil and not on a piece of paper all day. And when you look at this country, people in this country, 70% of people in this country are on prescription drugs, and many of them on psychopharmaceuticals.
Oh my God. Take 1 second. Let's talk about, just real quick, and then we'll come back, but you just hit the nail on the head, and we actually had a question in the audience.
Right.
What about this vote last night screwing Americans for pharmaceuticals? Bernie had put this forward, and look at, to prove all the points you made earlier about one party, Cory Booker. That if I hear one person claim Cory Booker 2020, I will drop an elbow on them from a skyscraper. Bam!
Right. Well, the interesting thing is that 12 Republicans voted for it and 13 Democrats voted against it, And I mean, right there, you can tell what's going on, right there. They made absolutely backroom deals. Okay, what can I vote for to not lose my constituents, but to still, that we still cannot pass that bill? I mean, it was all, and that's what I'm saying. Like, there is so much going on in the background that we don't know about. And I would bet my life on it that they're sitting in a back room, smoking cigars, laughing their ass off, how we are the idiots that are still fighting with each other, Absolutely. And that is what frustrates me to no end. And the thing that frustrates me more than anything is that they are destroying our planet like we have another one to go to. We don't. This is our only planet, and it's truly dying at a rapid pace, at a pace that we have never seen before. And we have the ability to look back when there were mass extinctions and all those and how long they took. And this is the most rapid, unbelievable pace that we are destroying our planet that we have ever seen before. And if we don't wake up, we don't have to fight about taxes. We don't have to fight about, healthcare anymore. I mean, we won't have a reason to. I mean, this is it. This is what we need to really wake up and demand immediate change. Not just, well, can we please, no. I mean, states where they ban off-grid living, those states, those people should be walked out of the building as enemies of the people and locked up. I mean, it's no longer sustainable, this kind of behavior, And I really despise people that are crying that Obama is leaving. I want to lose it. The man has approved 1,500 new fracking wells in the Gulf of Mexico alone last year, and people are saying, but the environment under Trump. I'm like, are you nuts?
Absolutely. So, turn your volume down because the echo factor.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
All right. So let me ask you a question.
Well, maybe I should plug in my headset.
Maybe. But here, I'll take you off screen just for a moment here. So one of the things that I'm concerned about, from the economic side, plays directly into what you're talking about. And I'm going to have several guests coming up here in the next several days talk about this as well. And it might be the most misunderstood program to bring about what you're talking about in the history of mankind. So Jill Stein talks about, instead of having unemployment offices, having employment offices in all the local
Right.
areas. Now, the economists that I work with, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to split screen now, the economists that I work with support something called the job guarantee, federal job guarantee. And what we've been talking about is it allows local communities to serve the public purpose once again. So for example, you could have a regular job if you so chose, or you could have the federal job guarantee, which would be, hey, I sign up for this program. You go
Right.
in there and you teach people sustainable living. That would be your new job, your federal job. It's not
Right.
like you got to go in and move a bunch of paper. The idea is to take what you're passionate about to serve the public purpose. And that way we bring
Right.
a sense of community together again. We lift the bottom up and we allow that local community without all the pain and suffering. You know, we
Right.
literally bring we solve for income inequality, and we bring about the potential for sustainable living. I mean, I'm excited
Right.
about it. I'd love to talk to you about it more at some other time, but I just wanted to
Right.
bring it
Right.
up to you.
No, and I think that's truly, I mean, we need new ideas. We cannot, is the audio better now?
Oh, much, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah. And we need new ideas, and we also need ourselves to really shift our paradigm. And the paradigm needs to change from me to us. You know, what can I do for other people? And I love, and I know this is far out there for some people, but one of my teachers, and I have many teachers from many different religions, and I don't sign up to any religion. I think they're all bullshit in a big space, but I think each one of them can really teach us something. And so one of my favorite teachers says, all happiness comes from us trying to make other people happy. And all suffering comes from us trying to make ourselves happy. And I think that is such a beautiful way of saying it. And the first time I heard it, I was thinking, yes, that's exactly how it feels, you know. And we really need to come from this place again. What can I do for you? Instead of what are you going to do for me? You know, we really need to shift that whole thinking, because that's where it all starts. We need to shift our thinking from, I need a bigger house, a bigger car, and more stuff than my neighbor, to, you know, this is enough. I have enough. You know, this chant, I have enough, should be on our daily meditation list, you know, because we always want more. And in reality, I used to work in an area where every one of my customers, Steve, was incredibly wealthy. Like really in that area, there was no garage that you could buy under $1 million, let alone a house. And I have never seen a more unhappy bunch of people in my life, you know? And we need to stop like admiring incredible wealth, because it's not something to admire. It's not. It's something to actually, extremely wealthy people, I feel bad for them, because they really have a disorder, just like hoarders, just like people who have 80 cats in an apartment. They have a disorder because nothing will be enough, and they always want more, you know, and there is no end point to it. There's not like, okay, I have plenty now, I don't need more than this, I can now give, you know. And a lot of extremely wealthy people don't have that switch. They get more and more greedy. And that is what is really destroying it for billions of other people, that we have literally a few thousand people that want everything. Not just a lot, they want everything. And they want to take it regardless of whether it costs human lives. And we cannot allow that to happen. You know, and we really need to fight that collectively as human beings, because it's happening in all countries, not just in this one. It's happening everywhere.
You
And
you
it's
have,
the,
You've taken a stand, in my opinion, over and over again, where you have literally been a voice of unity. I've always heard you taking the approach of serving the public purpose. This is a new. It's
Steve?
yeah, we just came back. You know,
Oh,
this
okay, good.
crazy thing.
Good.
So it's one of those terms that I have really begun to embrace in this public purpose because as we consider how we can help one another, it starts locally for sure, but
Right.
it's a bigger deal than that. I mean, we are one enormous planet that
Right.
is full of people and human life and ecosystems and animal life and all forms of life. You know, this planet will outlast us. The planet
Oh
will be
yeah, for sure.
fine. It's
Right.
life, which is precious. And so for me, you know, I've got such a drive to talk about economics that is so refreshing to come watch your streams and listen to what you're talking about because it takes me out of myself and it helps me. And then, ironically, after I'm done doing that, then I come back to what I do with economics. I think, how can I enable this beautiful world you painted through economics? And it just
Right.
creates that's the beautiful interplay that goes on. But
Right.
it's so important because there's so much hate, so much bitterness, so
Right.
and this whole well, okay, I guess I'm going to violate what I said. This whole anti-Trump thing, while I get it, I do get it, but
Right.
it's corrosive. It's Bernie Sanders
Yeah.
walked into Liberty University, home of Falwell and all those right-wing zealots, and he
Right.
sat there and talked to them like human beings. And he says,
Right.
I know we're going to disagree on homosexuality. I know we're going to
Right.
disagree on abortion. Let's just get it out of the way. But what
Right.
we do agree on is this. And he said, and I know you love your kids. I mean, he went through this whole thing, and it was
Right.
like, that to me,
Right.
that's what we should be doing. We should be going,
Yes.
Donald Trump, we feel sorry for you that you have these things, but we want to make our country truly great and we want to make our world great, and
Right.
you know, and instead of creating more hate to fill the vacuum, you know, and we
Right.
should be taking the page from the old Bernie Sanders model during the
Right.
campaign that united us all in love. I mean, the things you're talking about only happen with a good heart, with a heart that
Right.
wants to do good. You can't do
Yeah.
it with a heart full of malice.
No. No, you really can't. And I think that's why we really all collectively need to find that place inside of ourselves again where we become better human beings. And yeah, love again. Yeah, make humans love again, Catherine. That's right. Because that's really, that should be our guiding light. Life shouldn't be measured in how much we have. Life should be measured in how much we are loved and how much we love and how much we smile, you know, how much we can make life better for other people. And I've traveled to some really poor countries, not, you know, sort of third world countries, and you hang out with indigenous people that literally live in a little hut with a dirt floor, no windows, no doors, and they smile all the time. You know, they live in community. They are so much richer than most people I know in this country or in Germany. You know, they have a sense of community. They're happy to share, and they have nothing, you know, and they're like, no, 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 take, you know. I mean, it's such a refreshing way of yeah, happiness index, that's right. It's such a refreshing way of living, and it's such a beautiful way of living. And once we really embrace that again and we shift our thinking, then it really can change big time for everybody, you know, for everybody. And Bernie said that once, you know, in when they asked him about his spirituality, and he said, when you hurt, I hurt, you know. And when we really um, embrace that again, and when we really can feel that, And I tangibly felt it for a very long time with animals. We see an animal suffer. We see an animal being hit or being treated horribly. We know it hurts us. We can't even watch it anymore. But the same should be true when we see human beings suffer. I mean, we watch pictures of people in Syria being bombed, lying in the dirt dead, and people go, oh yeah, what's next on TV? Flip the channel,
I'm hearing bombs are falling in Syria again right now is what I'm hearing.
Right now, yes. Yeah.
Terrible.
It's unbelievable, and that a human life is worth so little. And we just are no longer allowed to make that distinction between our life and some other life form. Paul Farmer said, all problems stem from us thinking one life is more important than another, basically. And that is such a false narrative. I mean, we cannot think that my life is more important than your life, Steve. I mean, what kind of an idea would that be? All life is equally important. And once we get that, we can no longer hurt other beings. We don't want to hurt anybody. We don't want to hurt any animal, any being, any other human, and then we can really, from that place of compassion and love, we can fight. And fighting in a peaceful way, of course, we can fight for a better planet, because that should be what unites us, the love between all of us, and that's what Bernie's entire movement was built on. It was built on love and unity and respect for each other, and that's what we need to rekindle and grab onto, and really this time not let go, no matter who leads us. And if nobody leads us, even better. Then we can't lose the leader,
Oh, God. I want to talk about that real quickly. This is the most, I spoke to someone at the New Republic today in an interview, and they asked me about our movement. And I said, the movement that I signed up for was not me, us. That's the movement I signed up for. I didn't sign up for the dump Trump, hashtag never Trump. I signed up for not me, us. And in order for us in 4 years or in 2018 to have any chance of recapturing and making this movement grow, we've got to remember it's not me, us. We've got to remember the lessons that we learned, which were love and compassion and fighting for truth, not propaganda, but truth. And so as we sit there and we watch these zealots chasing the dump Trump narrative and doing anything they can to spin why Hillary lost, other than the fact that she was a neoliberal warmonger, other than that, by the way,
I know.
If we could just accept the fact that Clintonism is dead, that neoliberalism must die, and that we are truth tellers, we are still a movement, and we must remain a movement so that we're ready for the next one. The big problem with Bernie, and I will tell you right now, was that he came on too late. His thoughts, his ideas have been around forever, but the movement coalesced once we realized that he was serious and he wasn't gonna change his tune during the primary. And it's that feeling. And it's when I say feeling, I don't mean just a feeling. It was that set of principles that brought about the feeling, Healthcare for all, college for all, fixing the environment with green energy today, fixing the infrastructure, literally getting the whole freaking country unfucked. He had a plan, and he had an economic team, and he had others surrounding him that were truly willing to do the legwork. I was willing to do anything. We got to remember that. Forget Bernie. I mean, don't forget him, but forget him. It's about us. It really is about us. And if we keep these principles, we don't have to ask, well, what is it we're fighting for? Do you remember the principles? The principles stand. Principles are principles. They survive. And
that's why I wrote the book, Steve, because the issues are the same. The principles are the same. And that's what my book is about, because I felt that is what we need to rally around, not a single person. We need to rally about the issues, you know? We need to rally about, and if I would have literally one thing that I would want to implement in this country, and it would literally put all the corporations out of business today, and the power would be back with the people today. There's one thing that we need to do. It's only one thing. It's so freaking easy. It drives me insane that it hasn't happened. We need to stop giving them our money. That's all there is to it. As soon as we don't buy their stuff, that's how quickly they're out of business. If we don't like the corporations controlling the world and our governments at this point, all we need to do is stop supporting them and supporting each other instead. That's all it would take. That's all it would take. I'm not kidding. I mean, as soon as we no longer buy their things and you buy it from an artisan down the street instead, they're gone. That's all it would take. And it frustrates me to no end when I see people walking into a Walmart, when I see people shopping on Amazon, when I see people shopping at the box stores, when exactly Sarah Marie says credit union, when I see people still having their money in regular banks, especially the big ones, you know, take your money out of the banks, you know, go to your local little farmers market, go to your farm stands, go to your co-ops, fund co-ops, make co-ops, start them, you know. I mean, we really need to boycott big money, and they are gone, literally gone. It would be so easy.
It's so frustrating because I live in central Pennsylvania, and central Pennsylvania is proud Trump land. There's the stars and bars everywhere. And you've got an entire culture of the uneducated, but maybe labor skilled white people that this government just has never worked for. It's always left them behind, and they're miserable. And many of these people were mom and pop shop owners. They own local grocery stores. They own local convenience stores, whatever. And you walk in there and say, "Hey, Walt, how you doing?" "Not bad, Steve. How are you doing, sir?" And everybody talks. But then what happened? Walmart came in and put a Walmart everywhere. And then what happens? Walmart has the best prices. Walmart gives, you know, has the most easy access. And at some point in time, it becomes that you can't shop elsewhere because Walmart is the only game in town within 30 miles. You know, and so what ends up happening is even when you hate Walmart, you end up going to Walmart, and they've done it on purpose. And it's time for us to find a way to break that. And what you're talking about with local co-ops working together, building these communities of interest and robbing them of our money is the way that we have to do. I really believe. I
mean, my little town right now is starting a co-op. You know, it's been a few years in the making. It takes effort. It takes the whole community to really implement that. It takes people to do that, you know. And it takes people's time and effort, but that's the only way to do it. Because we really need to stop this craziness. I mean, you look at our food system, and it's owned by a few corporations. Even if you think you have, you know, 3,000 companies out there producing food, it comes down that they have all been bought up by other corporations. So it really comes down to Nestle and a handful of big ones, and they own everything. They own our entire food system. They have bought up most organic companies, you know. I mean, it is criminal because they basically have a monopoly. They can raise their price. I mean, the CEO of Nestle said, water is not a human right. Mm-hmm. And this is what we need to, though, internalize, because they can literally starve and kill people by simply not giving us food and water anymore, you know. And food safety is at peril here because we no longer have diversity. I mean, we have 4 different potatoes in this country, 4 different potatoes. If there is a potato beetle that wants to do it, they can wipe out the entire food system in 1 year. We don't have food safety. Food safety comes from diversity. Just like everything in diversity is good, and we need to embrace that. We need to have Monsanto bought up pretty much every seed company that has been in the world. There are a few organic seed companies left. Everything else is owned by Monsanto.
Who do you know? Okay, so do me a favor. Help me understand, for the people out there that have not been living this green life forever, but that are coming into the movement and are watching someone like yourself talk about this stuff. Some of these things are Greek to them. Most of our listeners are obviously, people that know the story. But let's just say we have new people coming in here. Talk a little bit about what is organic. How do you find it? How do you know what you're eating? How can you actually eat smart, live smart? Talk about some of the things to investigate how to do it so that you can do it in your daily life and it's not like some major college chore.
Right. Well, the easiest way is basically, when you think about it, eat as close to how nature made it as possible. Meaning, if it comes in a package, you most likely shouldn't eat it. If it has an ingredients list that you can't pronounce the words, definitely don't eat it. You should actually hardly ever buy something that is packaged. I buy in bulk at the health food store or at the co-op. So everything really looks the way it should look. There are no processed grains in my house. There are no processed anything in my house, If I want to make a cereal, I make the cereal. I make a muesli. I make a granola, out of the ingredients that I actually know. And so I think what people need to do again, and it really goes hand in hand. I learned the other day that 1 out of 12 meals in this country gets cooked. The rest gets either eaten out or just something grabbed out of a package. 1 out of 12 meals. That is absolutely criminal. We need to make food again. Food needs to be something that is embraced, that gets shared. The whole family gets together for a meal every day. I mean, it's such a, and when you go to other countries, I wish everybody in this country would live in another country for just a month, 1 month out of your lifetime, you have to live in another country. In many countries, food is such a staple, but it starts with, so tangible things that people can do. If you live in an apartment, have a little box with some dirt in it, throw a couple herbs in it, put in some basil, some parsley, some whatever you like, and grow a little bit of food. If you have a room outside, make a raised bed. Make 1 raised bed and grow food one summer. Throw a few tomato plants in there, some basil with it, and just enjoy the freshness of food. We have forgotten how food tastes. And when I go, for instance, when I go to Germany, I'm going to go next week to see my family. The food isn't grown hydroponically. In this country, most of our food is now grown hydroponically, and it comes from Mexico. And it's literally grown in greenhouses that are 200-300 acre greenhouses. And the vegetables don't grow in soil. They grow in a chemical mixture of about 6 chemicals. And they just grow in this chemical soup that is enough to raise a vegetable, but not enough to make it a healthy vegetable. It takes 96 nutrients to grow a real vegetable tasting like it, So I think we need to really find our roots again and experience what food tastes. And if you go to farmers markets, you will have that experience again. And organic still means that at least the food isn't genetically engineered. And that's a whole other can of worms that is a whole show in itself. But basically, we shouldn't be messing with nature, and we really should eat as close to nature as possible. And I firmly believe we should live as close to nature as possible. We should really have our hands in the dirt and touch nature. And it really is, actually, there's so much science now that it is an antidepressant to have your feet in the dirt,
Yeah.
But it's so, we have been so removed within just a couple generations from the way we should be living. And I say should because we really should. and eventually we will have no choice but to live that way. We will have no choice, because the way we live right now is completely unsustainable. It's just unsustainable in so many different ways, And so I try to teach people how to live this way. And I try to put information out there from other people that I interview that really have a lot more knowledge than I do in certain, in their field, and hopefully inspire some people to look at how to change their life in small ways and in big ways, And I hope you start a garden this year, Steve. If you don't have one, you better.
It's funny. I've got 2 acres of land, and
you can grow. Oh my God.
The only excuse I have is lazy. Well, it's not really lazy. I'm busier than hell. I mean, my family is like,
right.
When do we get to see you, Steve?
Right.
But you're right that we've talked about it at length. I would like to do some of the raised gardens in the back. I would like to be able to do some different things because, let's just talk economically. It's cheaper to grow your own food. You save so much money, and it's healthier.
So much money.
I mean, there's so many reasons. Our neighbors, they have a chicken coop. They do their own eggs. They have their own garden. They have so many things over there. They compost. They do a bunch of different things that you don't think about it when you're running 1,000 miles an hour. When you slow down and you look, I mean, this is going to sound silly, but traffic was really bad the other day. And for one reason or another, I wasn't stressed out about it. And I noticed trees that I hadn't seen before. And I'm like, that tree's got to be 200 years old, and I'm looking at it for the first time. I mean, it's amazing how we ignore so much around us just because we're trapped in the rat race. And there's got to be some sort of spiritual condition caused by the pulling away from nature that we've all experienced because of the way they got us. You have a wonderful opportunity because you have created this world for yourself. I really love that you're teaching people. I think that is so critical because this is not intuitive. It is not. You grow up the way you grow up. You're fed the food that you were fed. Changing takes a lot. And from what I understand, and this is probably another show, but from what I understand, your body develops dependencies on these chemicals that have been put into the food. And then when you get away from it, the withdrawals just from that alone is something that considers. There's so much that they've done to us.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm not going to say that we've always genetically modified foods from the dawn of time. So there's a natural, and then there's unnatural. And you see in nature, things cross-pollinate all the time. Things happen, and they get stronger. And there are natural ways of doing these things. I mean, marijuana would be a great point.
Right. Absolutely. But not. Nature doesn't cross interspecies. Nature doesn't cross a fish with a tomato. Nature doesn't do that. Humans do that, and it's absolutely sick. And the other thing I wanted to say real quick is, if people would understand, and sort of the tiny house community is understanding that and is absolutely embracing that. If you downsize, if you have a smaller life, let's say you come from a 2,000 square foot house, you downsize to a 500 square foot house that you can actually afford. You don't have a mortgage. You don't have payments. If you have solar panels, you don't have bills. If you have a composting toilet, if you have a spring or a well, you don't have a water bill. I mean, all of a sudden, you don't have to make all this money. And if you grow your own food, that could be family time. And you can't do your kids a bigger favor and a bigger service in their life than to teach them how to grow food. There's nothing bigger you can do for your children. And Joel Salatin, who is an extraordinary farmer who is traveling actually the world teaching about farming in a certain way. He calls himself a grass farmer. He says that if once people appreciate their child wanting to be a farmer as much as if somebody would say my child is a doctor, wants to be a doctor, a lawyer, if we're at the point where we are as proud of our kids to want to be a farmer, that's when the world has a chance of survival. That's when we actually have hope again that things will turn around. Oh, Carrie says my grandson is 3 and he grew carrots last year. That's amazing. I love that, because kids who will be able to grow food in the future will be the ones that survive. It's not going to be the ones with the PhD. It's just not, because that will have very little meaning in the future, to be honest.
My kids took a pumpkin. We had a huge pumpkin on the front yard, and we had like 3 or 4 of them. And they threw them. They didn't let me know they threw them, and they threw them against my house.
Right.
Didn't know it at all. Didn't pay any attention to it. Then all of a sudden, the next year come out, and there's this vine growing all the way to the road,
right.
And there's pumpkins all down the thing.
That's great.
They thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I have to dig those pictures up because it was really special. But it makes me really sad, because I remember when I lived in Southern Maryland, which is country living for sure, just outside of DC, ironically, 30 miles out, and it's still very country, near Port Tobacco. And my parents had about a half an acre of their land that they had cordoned off to just grow food. I remember being so excited about picking the squash and the zucchini and all the different, peppers and so forth that they grew.
Right.
And, I think that there's something special about sending the kids out to the garden, picking the tomatoes. I think I like that. I used to eat the green beans right off the vine, the sugar snap peas and stuff like that. So it definitely brings about some really fond memories.
Yeah, and kids truly have an inherent love for nature. And I see that all the time because, as you know, I have cabins that I rent out to vacation people. And when people come with families to my cabins, the kids are so excited about the gardens. They go and they find little cherry tomatoes, and they find a carrot here or there, or beets, or they're like, what is that? And they play with the bugs, and they find out new things, and the kids absolutely love it. And I go, play in the dirt, jump in the puddle. I mean, be a child. And it is so, so important that we don't lose that connection, because if we lose that connection, we really have very little chance of survival, because this saying that we will not protect what we don't love is very true. And if kids don't love nature anymore, or again, and adults, we will not protect it, because we don't have the connection to it anymore, And if you start connecting with nature, if you start connecting with the plants and what you're eating, and if you truly make a point of taking the time to lie in the grass in the summer and just really listen to earth, you will protect it, because you don't want to lose it. And that's what my whole being is geared around. I don't want to lose this beautiful planet that we have. And we are at the brink of losing it. We are at the brink of losing it as a human species. And once we've lost it, we will not gain it back anytime soon, And we really have so many areas where we can be at peril, and we need to fight them as hard as we can, I mean, they just upped the allowable radiation level 10,000 times, and there is no allowable radiation level for humans. We should not have any radiation exposure. And they just literally upped it 10,000 times. It's crazy.
I was noticing in the comments, and I want to say this before we end, because I think this is probably another show, and I'd love to have you back on to discuss some of the stuff further. This inner city has got a lot of rooftops. The
Right.
inner city has a lot of potential. People talking about, hey, I don't really have property. Hey, I don't really
Right.
have any. And I have seen urban farming go incredibly. I've seen urban
Right.
farming initiatives, seen urban farming co-ops. I've seen
Yes.
people doing rooftop farms all over the place.
Yes.
And do you have any experience or anything with that? Because this is something that I think that the poor of all the places where somebody
Right.
feels hopelessly disconnected from nature, where all you
Right.
have is cement and asphalt. Here's an
Yes.
opportunity where people in the city can, in fact, band together and
Right.
create these things.
Right. Right.
Can you talk about
And
that a
I
little bit?
think that's, yeah, I think that's incredibly important. I mean, if I would have my ways and there is a high rise, I would have everybody have a composting toilet. We would compost everything that comes out of the humans, and I would compost every food scrap there is, and I would create soil literally right there on the rooftop and grow food for the entire building, and it wouldn't be even that hard to do. And there are now, um, beekeepers in the cities that have bees on rooftops, and it was illegal for a while. Thank God they made it legal. And we really have to fight incredibly hard because they're making it illegal in some places to have a garden, to grow food, to have solar energy, to have rainwater collection. I mean, that's been illegal in some places to collect rainwater. We really need to be very vigilant. But yes, cities have their own, their own incredible way of growing food, and it can be vertical gardens. I mean, there are whole systems. There are window gardens where you basically have sort of a pipe system, and there's soil in there, and you grow food right on your window. You could grow all the lettuce you can ever eat, all the herbs you can ever eat. I mean, granted, you might not grow carrots and beets, but you could grow a lot of food in so many different ways. And cities are getting into it, and I think it really needs to start with schools. There shouldn't be a single school that doesn't have a garden where they grow food. They're really Kids need to learn how to grow food first grade. It should be a few hours a week, every week. I mean, cut some other stuff that they don't need to know. I mean, we need to know how to grow food. And so some cities, and I think New York is one of them, they are collecting compost now in some areas. And I hope that will continue, that people put out their compost like they put out their recycling in their trash, and it gets separated, and I mean, if people haven't done that, if you take all your food scraps, all your kitchen scraps, all of that, you put it outside in a little enclosure, whatever you want to make, you will have soil 2 years later. I have a composting toilet, which is literally a bucket, and I empty that bucket, and in 2 years I will have amazing soil, and I put other stuff in there too, of course, to compost, but it'll be amazing soil. And we need to relearn how nature works. And once we do that, we can really turn things around. And cities have parks. There are, green strips in the middle, and all this could be growing food. There could be fruit trees everywhere. I mean, people could be eating from the trees everywhere. And that's what we need to start implementing again.
Right. So
It's extremely.
I'm going to be very, very courteous of your time. It's 9 o'clock. We've gone a little bit
Yes.
over. I want to thank you so much. You are truly my
Thank
favorite
you.
person in this movement. You have
Thank you.
you've
Same.
done more for me than I could ever do for you, and it's been I
No.
feel incredibly blessed to call you my friend. I
Oh,
mean that.
thank
I
you.
truly, truly do. You are an
Same
amazing
here.
person. Well,
Same here.
anyway, folks, just tell Claudia you love her. I mean, seriously, this is one awesome.
Thank
This is
you
one
so much,
awesome
Steve. And
lady.
I feel the same way. You have started an amazing channel, and it's grown exponentially, and I know it'll grow even more. So no problems there. And I really appreciate you as a human being and as a friend. I really
Thank
do.
you so much. Thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank you.
you.
All right, folks, with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast. You guys meet me on Friday night. I'll have Logan Malasamy. On Saturday night, I will have Joe Firestone talking about the public purpose. And then on Sunday night, I'm going to have Ellis Winningham do a special extended version of the history of neoliberalism. And it's going to go into the mechanics of ending neoliberalism. And then the Taj Mahal. Ellis is setting the stage for Monday night. I'm going to have Pavlina Cherneva join us, who is going to talk about, on Martin Luther King Day, talk about the job guarantee, basic income, and why the job guarantee overall is the more important plan, and how we can implement both and make a more just society. With that, I'm Steve Grumbine. Thank you, Claudia. And I'm going to say goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Good night. Bye.
All right. Oh, do one more time. Say goodbye. There we go. One more bye-bye. All right, folks. See you later. And